sun was setting behind the dusty horizon of a small town, where the roads were cracked and the air smelled of gasoline and freedom. Outside a run-down roadside diner, a little girl sat quietly on the steps, her knees pulled close to her chest. Her school uniform was dirty, her backpack torn, and beneath her left eye was a dark, swollen bruise. She couldn't have been more than 8 years old. She wasn't crying anymore. She'd already cried enough. The faint rumble of engines in the distance made her look up. The sound grew louder and deeper, a chorus of growling motorcycle engines tearing through the evening air. She blinked, startled, as a line of Hell's Angels bikers rolled into view. There were about 10 of them at first. Leather jackets, heavy boots, sunglasses, tattoos, and an aura that made everyone in the diner stop and stare. They weren't the kind of men people messed with. The bikes came to a stop near the diner, the engines roaring one last time before dying into silence. Dust swirled around the little girl's feet. The leader stepped off his bike, a tall man with a gray beard, sharp eyes, and a heavy leather vest with the name Reaper stitched across the back. His presence filled the air with quiet authority. He was heading inside when he noticed her, the small figure on the steps, bruised and still. Her eye caught the dying sunlight, revealing the mark on her face. He paused. The girl glanced at him nervously, then looked down, gripping her backpack tighter. Reaper's brow furrowed. He crouched down in front of her, his voice low but gentle, a tone completely at odds with his rough appearance. "Hey, kiddo," he said. "That's quite the shiner. You okay?" She hesitated, unsure if she should answer. Everyone always told her not to talk to strangers, but no one had ever looked at her with such concern. She sniffled. I fell, she whispered. Reaper's eyes softened. "You sure about that?" She shook her head slightly. Tears filled her eyes before she could stop them. The other bikers stood around, watching quietly, some removing their helmets. The atmosphere changed from tough to tense, protective. "Who did that to you?" Reaper asked softly. She wiped her nose with her sleeve. My stepdad." Her voice cracked. "He gets mad. A lot." One of the bikers clenched his fists. Another muttered under his breath, "Son of a..." before Reaper shot him a warning glance to keep quiet. Reaper turned back to her. "Where's your mom, sweetheart?" "She's gone," the girl whispered. "She died last year. That was it." The moment that broke every man standing there. Reaper swallowed hard, his throat tightening. He'd seen violence, betrayal, war, but nothing stung like seeing a child hurt and helpless. "What's your name, little one?" he asked. "Lucy," she said. "Lucy," he repeated softly. "That's a good name." He looked at her carefully. "Where were you headed?" She shrugged. "Nowhere. I just didn't want to go home." The silence that followed was thick with emotion. Even the hum of the diner's neon sign seemed to fade. Reaper reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small chocolate bar. He handed it to her. "Here, eat something." Lucy stared at it, then at him, unsure if it was a trick. When she saw kindness in his eyes, she took it with trembling hands. "Thank you," she whispered. Reaper smiled faintly. "Don't thank me yet," he said, sitting on the step beside her. "I'm not exactly Santa Claus." For the first time that day, Lucy giggled. Just a tiny sound, but enough to make every biker around them smile a little. As she ate, Reaper noticed how small her hands were, how dirty her shoes were, how the bruise under her eye wasn't the first one she'd ever had. He sighed deeply. "Lucy, does your teacher know what's happening to you?" She shook her head. "I told her I fell. Nobody believes me anyway." Reaper's jaw tightened. He looked over his shoulder at his brothers, men who'd been through hell and back together. They didn't need words. They already knew what he was thinking. He turned back to Lucy. "Lucy, you got anyone who looks out for you?" She hesitated, then looked up at him with watery eyes. "No." Her next words came out so soft they were almost a whisper, but they hit every man like a bullet to the chest. "Can you be my dad?" Reaper blinked, stunned. Around him, a few of the bikers looked down, hiding their emotion. The leader stared at her, completely silent. He didn't know what to say. He wasn't a father. He wasn't even sure he remembered how to be gentle. But something in that child's broken voice shattered every wall he had built around his heart. He took a deep breath, his voice rough. Lucy, I'm not the kind of man who deserves to be anyone's dad. She looked down, disappointment clouding her face. But, he continued, standing up slowly, I'll tell you this, nobody's ever going to hurt you again. You hear me? Lucy looked up, her small face lighting with the faintest hope. Promise? Reaper smiled faintly. Promise. He turned to his crew. Get her some food. Real food, and tomorrow, we're taking her to school. One of the bikers frowned. What for, boss? Reaper's expression hardened, his voice calm but dangerous. Because her stepdad's gonna learn what it means to hit someone smaller than him. The others nodded silently. The engines would roar again tomorrow, not for war, but for justice. And as the stars appeared above the highway, Lucy sat between men who the world called dangerous, yet, for the first time in her life, she felt safe.